have the ability to boost someone's spirits when they need it the most, whether they are a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. What's going on? You're listening to episode 25 of the Perspective Podcast, and I'm your host, Scotty.D.Russell of Perspective Collective. This show is all about encouraging you to pursue your creativity. You have something to offer this world, and you can make a difference by sharing your work. This is just a weekly push to, get you to scratch that creative itch. As 2017 is moving so quickly, it's pretty crazy. It's already February right now, but so many of us use the new year to evolve into a new you. You make all these goals and expect to build momentum only to find yourself stuck. And I don't know about you, but 2017 for me started off with a fizzle, and I want to share with you a little bit about the creative funk that I've been dealing with. For a while now, I've been feeling pretty invisible to the world, and if you ever felt the same way, then this episode is for you. I want to show you that you too are capable of pulling yourself out of this dark place, as I'm slowly working my way out of this myself. And that's why this episode is titled, Dealing with Creative Funks and Feeling Invisible. And I forget to mention this a lot, but you can always find the show notes for each episode in a blog format, and this week's episode show notes is available over at perspective-collective.com/25. Do you ever get in a creative funk where you lack the drive to create while feeling invisible to the world at the same time? There are those sinister inner voices that try to convince you that your work doesn't matter and you can't make a difference. I'm pretty sure everyone goes through these phases, whether they admit it or not. And this episode is me admitting to you in hopes you don't feel alone in the times you feel invisible as a creative or, in life in general. There is light at the end of the tunnel, as I'm learning that this is part of the struggle of pursuing something that's important to you. And in due time, it will be important to others as well if you just stick with it and keep pushing through. And it's okay to feel this way. It's natural. However, you are capable of pulling yourself out of this creative funk and push forward to the next phase of your creative path. And I say this because I'm pushing through one of these phases myself right now. And it kind of starts off with just the winter blues. So from mid-December through practically the month of January, I've been in an extremely depressed state of mind, and it's been really physically and mentally draining. And there are a lot of variables into play here. Leading up to Christmas, I hurt my back and I could barely move for a week. You may not know that I blew out my disc. I have herniated discs that I deal with from football in college. So that really started the whole ordeal. Anxiety began to take over my life leading up to January 4th when I had nose and throat surgery. And that doesn't help when every time you go to a doctor's visit, you talk to someone on the phone, they tell you could die from the anesthesia or the surgery. So that didn't help. Post-surgery had me isolated and laying in a recliner for 24 hours a day. This isolation gave me ample time to get trapped in my own head because I do deal with anxiety. It's something I deal with every day. On top of that, my diet was extremely off and I wasn't able to go to the gym due to my back injury and then surgery. And finally, the weather in Iowa has just been crazy shitty and gloomy. It's been rainy, it's been weird and funky, and it definitely brings down the mood, instead of a bright and sunny day. It just wore me down. While I was still kicking out some uplifting art during this phase, every drawing carried some kind of dark undertone, which I feel like was me crying out in creative pain. And you can scroll through the episode artwork over at perspectivepodcast.com and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Drawing after drawing has this dark black theme, whether or not it still had an encouraging message. And to be honest with you, during this stretch, I've been feeling invisible. Like what I created or said through my podcast landed on blind eyes and deaf ears. And this new Instagram algorithm doesn't help boosting the self-esteem either. I've doubted everything I've been trying to build with Perspective Collective. and was even attacking my physical appearance during this, month and a half span. Growing up, I got picked on often for being chubby, and those hateful voices still haunt me today. Looking in the mirror during this stretch disgusted me after no gym sessions and polluting my body with all this holiday shit. And lots of pizza. This self-pity mode I was in, I'm climbing out of it right now, but the self-pity mode I was in, it was really self-sabotaging. And I'm not saying all of this because I want your pity. That's totally not it. I'm just telling you that, even I deal with this. Maybe it doesn't always come that way. It doesn't come off that way in social media, but if I deal with it, everybody deals with this, whether they admit it or not. And I'm just saying this because I realized this was a phase, and I am able to climb out of it, and so are you. And this is what helped me. And the main thing that's helped me was talking about it. So usually if I get in a funk like this, because time to time I'll get into some little weird funk, but usually I can pop on some kind of inspiring podcast or an audiobook or some inspirational YouTube video, and this usually can snap me out of this woe is me attitude. But during this little funk phase, I could give a fuck less about all of these forced remedies. Like, none of that was working. I had no time. I could care less about listening or consuming one of these things that usually pick me up. The emotions were just too strong and overpowering. And if you're like me, you'd rather bottle up all your emotions, as showing any type of weakness will ruin your perceived reputation as a badass. And perceived reputation, I put in air quotes that you can't see. But over the years, especially since I've been dealing with anxiety, I've come to realize that I'm no badass, and openly talking about things that I struggle with helps me push through these creative funks. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I've started this podcast, is just to vent and, put more out there than just a drawing, because, I feel like I have a lot to offer, and there's a lot of things that I've dealt with in my life that maybe other people need to hear about so they can push through it too. And about 3 weeks into this depression, I would say, I sought out my best friend, which is my wife, Emily. And I told her I just wasn't feeling like Scotty, and I'm not sure what's going on. And just talking to someone after building it up inside of me, was so relieving to share with someone who cared, even though it didn't change how I felt at the time. Moving on, next, I ended up consulting a few close members within my mastermind group. And again, I was met with encouraging words, as they ended up sharing me their creative funks too. Some of them dealt with pretty gruesome surgeries that kind of set them back and put them in a depressed funk, or, other issues dealing with their family lives or something like that. So that was really encouraging to hear, to let me know that I'm not alone. The more I talked about it and heard other people admit they deal with this too, the better I began to feel. Finally, a couple weeks later, once my nose and throat were almost fully healed, I turned to my Instagram stories to show my face and share what I'd been dealing with. A lot of times I just show art, but other times I like to just get face to face and interact with people and let people know that there's a genuine human behind the account. And this wasn't a cry for help tactic. It was meant to let whoever the hell was watching on the other side know that they aren't alone in their dips of depression. I didn't expect any responses, as it was more therapeutic just to get this off my chest. But to my surprise, there were waves of replies I got from strangers that deal with the same feelings of invisibility. And those replies, your replies, are what inspired this show to compile my thoughts and my struggles into something more personable, transparent, and more consumable, I would say, than just clips of stories or me talking to individual people. So I'm hoping that, this can serve as something that can help someone else in my shoes. And that leads me into the next segment of sometimes encouragers need encouragement. Sometimes people need to know that they matter and are making a difference. And I want to talk a little bit about my good friend Diane Gibbs. She is an amazing individual who does so much for creatives, whether it's through her Design Recharge show or by teaching her design students. She showed me the importance of how encouragers need encouragement too. And outside of creating art, I find the most fulfillment in creating. I've been creating my whole life, and it wasn't until recently until I felt like I can actually do something with my art. But outside of creating art, I know I exist to serve and encourage people like you. That's why I've done lots of coaching football in the past. I've done personal training. I'm an encourager. I want to build people up. And after sharing my work and receiving support from others, it showed me that I have potential, and it's my duty to pass that opportunity on to someone else. And that's what the show is about. I want you to see your creative potential. And it's a powerful feeling when someone took time out of their existence to reach out and let you know what you do matters. Time is your most valuable asset. So by one person reaching out to me, that means so much to me, because you could be doing so many other things, but you took the time to reach out to me. And this is what Diane did. And I think it was the final measure that really pulled me out of this dark place, this creative funk I've been in. And it happened last week. I was starting to feel better, cleared to go back into the gym, talked about it with, my audience, and talked about it with like my friends and my wife. But she first texted me this last Saturday, and then she ended up calling me out of nowhere, and it really made my day. She could have been a distant onlooker of my art or listener of my podcast, but instead she lifted my spirits, and she ended up sharing her own creative struggles as well. And it really made a difference in my mindset going into the next week and getting back on track and feeling like Scotty again. And I feel like Scotty right now, but it's been a battle. And I feel like I have battle scars from it, but I feel so much stronger and mentally tougher for the next time this shit comes around. But my point is here, so I get done rambling, my point is that you have the ability to boost someone's spirits when they need it the most, whether they are a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. And sure, reaching out to a stranger, your words of encouragement may land on deaf ears. I can't tell you how many times I reached out to my heroes and sent them an encouraging message and heard crickets. I got no reply back. And it's the worst when you can see that they read a message and then just didn't give a shit and didn't respond. But that's whatever. Then again, you should see some of the replies I have gotten in return, whether it was to my heroes or just someone who I felt needed a pick-me-up. That is what makes it worth it, seeing those replies. Because sometimes encouragers need encouragement to pull themselves out of a creative slump and not feel invisible. You help someone feel visible. You help someone feel seen, feel loved, feel cared about, feel like they're making an impact and a difference. And if you've ever had that urge to reach out to someone, then act on your intuition and do it. I'm serious. You can make a lasting impact on someone like Diane did for me. She made me feel not invisible that day. And I want to help you feel not invisible. So in conclusion, I'm going to drive this fact home with you that you're not invisible. And I want to force this into your head every episode that you have something to offer, even though you feel like no one is listening or watching, especially if you're just getting started off on your creative path. I've been there. You could be affecting that one person that stats and analytics failed to show. And all it takes is one person at a time to make an impact. One person at a time. Don't worry about reaching the masses and going viral. Last episode was side projects getting exposure, but even with exposure, it happens with one person at a time, making one fan at a time. You also have the power to impact others through encouragement. There's enough garbage and shit and negativity going on in this world, and you can be a part of the solution. Instead of breaking people down and building walls and creating a divide, both sides right now, left and right, are acting ignorant. Be a part of the solution. Everyone deals with creative funks, and everybody feels invisible at times, whether they admit it or not. You are not alone. And I want you to always remember that I'm in your corner cheering you on, whether we've ever met in person or not. It doesn't matter. I'm here to cheer you on. And like me, if talking to someone helps you get through these slumps and you need someone to talk to, I'm here. I'm ready to listen. You can hit me up over at Scotty@perspective-collective.com. And I promise you, I swear on everything, I will listen. I will respond. And I'm in your corner. I'm telling you, I'm not going to BS you. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. So please don't give up on pursuing something that's important to you. You are not invisible. As I'm slowly starting to become more of myself and, getting back on track, eating better, getting to the gym, trying to practice mindfulness to tame this anxiety I've been feeling lately, I feel like it's so important to share these things with people. This isn't me looking for pity. This isn't me calling for someone to give me words of affirmation. This is me getting things off my chest. So hopefully if someone ever hit me up with the same problem or issue, I can direct them exactly to this episode. And it can be for them at the right moment, at the right time. And if you are finding value in the show, or if you think this episode can help someone in your life, share it with someone who maybe needs it, because all of us creatives, we're not in this all by ourselves, okay? We're in this all together. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to encourage you. This is a community. And I want to push and encourage my fellow creatives to become the best version of themselves. And the best way you can support the show is, yes, by sharing it, especially this episode, or by just giving it a positive review over on iTunes. It does help the show. If you want to find me, you can find me online at perspective-collective.com, or you can find the episode artwork and, a nice little pick me up as well over on my Instagram account. That's Perspective Podcast over on Instagram. Also, I want to mention April is going to be a very busy month for me. I'm going to be out and about traveling. I will first be at Creative South in early April. I believe the dates are 6th through the 9th, and I will be teaching a workshop on how to craft a killer talk that Thursday morning. If you're needing help with preparing for public speaking, or, starting your own podcast, or creating YouTube videos, or teaching, anything that you're going to have to do some kind of talking and preparing for, that's what this workshop's going to be about, with co-hosting it with my buddy Brian Manley. We're going to walk you through, build your confidence, and help you get those crazy, brilliant ideas that you have and let you communicate them out publicly. Later on in April 20th and 21st, Friday is that 21st, I believe, I will be speaking over at Crop Conference in Baton Rouge. My friend Matt Dawson is putting that on. There's still Friday tickets available. It's going to be awesome. There's crazy talented speakers that I get to share the stage with, which blows my mind, like Tad Carpenter. I'm stoked. I can't wait to deliver some value and, take everything off the podcast and deliver it up on the stage. I need to give a big thank you to Nick Jenkins of Blookah for all the theme music you hear on the show. You can find all of his music at soundcloud.com/Blookah. That's BLOOKAH. And as always, I want to sincerely thank you for spending time with me here, taking time out of your existence to lend me your ears. And I want to encourage you to just keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep creating. You got this.